Alright, so welcome back into another Dragon Ball Super card game video. This one is going to be the first of probably a lot of decks that I'm kind of backed up of, mainly in Draft Box 6. And then, of course, this is the Yamcha deck profile that I've been testing, or the deck that I've been testing for a while. And I've been having a lot of fun with it. And of course, a little bit of background, I really like the aspect of burn and just like that archetype. Pretty much the only thing I played in Yu-Gi-Oh other than Lightsworn when I did play Yu-Gi-Oh, and that was a long time ago. But if anything, I'm very happy to see a lot more burn cards out of the draft box, and I kind of put that into a number of different leaders. If you didn't check out the weekly podcast or the bi-weekly podcast, basically, that I posted the original baby deck, in which basically took advantage of the new 2-drop Piccolo Jr., minused it with the baby leader, and then went right back up with the Vengeful Onslaught just to use Alliance again, and of course do some other shenanigans like minus the Bardock and then play another Bardock after they take a life, etc, etc. So there's some things with the Vegeta baby leader that were really good. But at the end of it, I kind of landed on Yamcha, and I really like Yamcha because of his backside effect, which I'll go into in a little bit. But if you really want to stick with the baby archetype, using Vengeful Onslaught, getting that untap 2 instead of the draw 1, untap 1, I mean, I would stick with him. Hopefully I can find the deck list and I'll just put it up on my face for the previous or the current deck list that I had for baby, so that way you can kind of build on that. But for Yamcha, that's a little bit of a different story. Of course, definitely subscribe if you are new. If you want to see some more deck profiles, let me know what else do you want to see as far as other decks, archetypes, leaders, etc. out of draft box, or even an expansion as we get into these next couple weeks. Now, when we talk about the purpose of the deck, right? Why did I even make it? Why did I switch over to Yamcha in the first place, right? And that really comes down to the backside leader effect. So the front side, if you didn't know already, which is kind of hard to see this, but he's kind of an older leader, so it's like whatever. But the gist of it is that the backside and the front side kind of do the same thing. He gains 5k on the swing. You look at the top 2 and you choose a red card from it, add it to your hand, and then the other side the other card goes to the drop side, or the drop area. Again, both sides basically do the same. He's a 15k leader on Awaken and 20k on Awaken. And then he does awaken at 5 or less life, which is actually kind of convenient. You can kind of do more plays earlier, or at least get to that awakening option, or being awakened as an option a little bit earlier as well. And it kind of helps with the rival, which I'll go into in a little bit. But the auto for his second auto, which wasn't all that great back in the day, or at least before this last set of draft box, his says if you have a red unison card in play, doesn't matter how many markers you have, when your opponent takes damage from a non-keyword skill from your battle cards or unison cards, deal 1 damage to your opponent and then negate the skill for the rest of the game. Obviously on paper it's not that great, but when you put it together with other cards, which this combo that you have in front of us, it is quite good. And the reason for that is because the Master Roshi basically says if your leader is a red leader, your opponent is at 5 or more life, they deal 1 damage, or they take 1 damage. And that basically goes off anytime, because you can't really interact with unisons outside of yellow, so most decks will be taking that damage, and the sequencing of this deck is pretty particular when you actually kind of get down to it, which again we'll get into a little bit. But the Master Roshi, he gains 5k, he's a 20k beater basically every single time, and then if you play all the other red good stuff that adds unisons, or adds markers to unisons, you can kind of get to that that -4 pretty quickly, and it is a 30k double striker. I wish it was a double strike dual attacker. It would put this unison like quite up there, but this is basically the unison that you kind of need to run in order for other stuff to proc off and to make the deck worth running. And it also kind of fits the whole premise of burn. But the other thing is that Super Saiyan Gogeta, this is back in the older expansion, I think the 3rd expansion or 4th expansion, one of those. Basically, if a red-green multicolored card is played in your area of cost of 5, has to be 5. You get to play this for free. So basically Liqueur and Gogeta procs that off, and then when it's switched by alliance, you deal 1 damage to the opponent. So basically, if somehow, some way, if they are still at 6 or more life, you deal 1 damage with Roshi, you're awakened, and then you can deal 1 more damage to Yamcha, which is not really worth it, honestly. But if you combine that with this guy, with Alliance, and then the leader, and then this Piccolo, you're basically guaranteeing 3 damage. Now, I know this is kind of something that has been out there for a little bit, which is my fault because I've been playing this deck for like 2 or 3 weeks now, and I just haven't made videos. But with a Piccolo is a 16k double strike with the Alliance. You add this guy, he's a 31k double striker. Basically, if they're at 3 or less, or 3 or more life, basically, you get to deal 1 damage. Now, Awakened, again, you deal 1 damage with Piccolo, you alliance with Gogeta, and then you use a leader effect, and that's 3 damage pretty much guaranteed, as long as you have a red unison. It gets a little awkward, however, but it is still doable. And I think this is such a really good card for 2 energy, which you have to commit to red-green, but for 2 energy, you get to draw 2 cards, and you get to almost guarantee a life, and threaten lethal pretty much anytime they're at 3 life. The cool thing though is that if they are at 2 life, you can just swing with this for go for lethal. But if you have Acrobatic Warrior, you can just alliance that, use a leader effect, and you win anyway. So there's a couple of avenues as far as that goes. You don't really have to rely on that 3 energy or that 3 life guarantee. And now when we look at the other thing for the deck itself, I'm just going to look at I'm going to show you the deck now, because the thing about this is that there's a lot of different cards. Well, I wouldn't say a lot of different cards, but very specific cards in this deck that are kind of needed, and I feel like are better than other choices as far as other variations that I've seen so far. And one of the things that I was mentioning is basically them being at 2 life, 3 life, or whatever. Oh, this is not pictured, but the last card here is actually the secret rare, the red-green secret rare. So maybe I'll edit it in, but for those who actually watch the video, hopefully you'll know and put it together that the red-green secret rare is also guaranteed 2 life, or 3 life technically. So if you play out the secret rare, they have to take 2, and then the leader makes you take 1. So there you go. There's 3 life right there. But going down the line, you know, Barlic Resolute, basically with Master Roshi, this is a free 15k double striker that restands if they negate, which is super handy because you're going to be swinging with their Master Roshi for 20k, this guy for 15k for double strike, and then this new King Piccolo, in which if you have 3 or more markers on your red unison, you get to play for free. It's a 20k double strike because it gets +5 and they can't block, and then it gets sent to warp at the end of the turn, which is good because now you can just play another one in the next turn. And since your leader gets to look at the top 2, you're probably going to be picking that, or really any of the other cards here. The only thing about the leader, which I'll kind of jump around here, is that the trunks and the black cards aren't really be able to, you know, they're kind of dead, which is why I kind of reduced it over and over again for the variations of this deck that I've had, and they just became dead, right? But the integral part of this is that these are going to be drawn either from Awakening, the turn, alliance from Liqueur, and as well as Piccolo. And Piccolo, you don't really need much. Like Piccolo, you can just be a Piccolo for 2-drop. You have a Trunks in hand, you play that for free because Trunks is free if you have a red-green card in the play. He's a block of revenge as well, which is crazy. And then you get to swing, draw 2, and then make him burn a life, and then be threatened with a 21k double striker turn 2, right? So, you know, these things are pretty important as far as that goes, and we'll go into the sequencing as well. Wolfang Fist is a last-minute addition. I'm kind of like bouncing between this as well as the Yamcha counterplay, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But Wolfang Fist is nice so that they threaten your unison, which is very important to keep on the field. You can go ahead and just minus it 15k pretty much with anything, either their leader, their battle card, whatever. Except for unisons. I do believe you can't do it for unisons. Then we have Saiyan Kaba, which is another searchable thing from your leader. Most of the time, you don't really have too much of an issue awakening, and if you don't awaken, then It's kind of annoying that you don't get the backside burn to guarantee that extra damage, but it's not that big of a deal because the leader does the same thing on both sides, like I said. Saving combo for 1 energy, of course, always puts on the pressure, gets you an extra card in hand, gets you another attacker, etc. The 2 Chi-Chi is actually used to be the Kai Supreme, or Supreme Kai, the 1-drop for Vegex and other Black Saiyans that play for free, because your hand used to be, well, generally isn't the highest. So Kai is good in order to mitigate that and to reward you for not having a huge hand. But the issue is that, again, the leader, whenever you do swing and you see that, is going straight to drop, and Chi-Chi is kind of like that replacement for that. And it's at 2, you could probably put it at 3, but generally it's not that much of an important card. It's just nice to draw. It's just nice to have a 1-drop that you can use for Alliance. It's just nice to have and to keep the deck a little bit more consistent over other cards. Of course, Master Roshi, I already kind of explained. Maya is another 1-drop that not only has the utility for, blue decks, blue baby, etc. Doesn't hurt them that much, but it is that extra threat for Dimension Magic or Whis or any of these other cards like Mechiorp. And it has barrier, in which you can just use for Alliance pretty much at any time, or they have to deal with it. So at any time that you have for some free energy and you're just waiting or just passing the turn, just use Alliance on their turn, then Maya is going to be the best bet. So that way you can kind of set up your turn for later. King Piccolo, of course, I already explained. For Acrobat. Heroic Duo Videl is your only negate, which is very important because it is only a 1k, unfortunately, for Alliance, but it is another Alliance target. So I play this over Topo because Topo costs 2 energy and you really want to end the game like turn 3 or 4. I play over Violent Rays because I feel Violent Rays is good. Never said it was bad, but kind of situational. And when I did play it, I didn't like to pitch a card for really anything that I do. So there you go. Is that all you got? It's kind of the same thing. And then there's not really any other good cards. I used to play the Master Roshi, but it doesn't negate the attack. So there you go. Check Lens. Nappa is self-explanatory for Alliance and as well as for Arrival. And then, I kept saying Alliance, didn't I? For Arrival. There you go. And then Liqueur, because it is really good for removal. It gets you that draw 2 for 3 energy, and you can play out a Trunks again for that, or Acrobat for later or for the next turn. You can do this on your Awakened side. Swing for whatever critical, draw the 2, and then -20 for 2 of them. They have to deal with it, which is usually what they're swinging at, and then they pass turn, and then you play the Piccolo, and you win for game. There you go. Piccolo, it's already busted. Unwavering Conviction is just amazing. It just sucks that the Activate battle, just like I explained in a previous video, only kind of works on their end. So like basically if you swing, they negate, they don't negate, it comes back to you, you combo, you have to boost something else to give it 5k, and then they go back, they combo. You can't use the Activate battle. But if it's the other way around, you can use it, you can rip a card and you can give something 5k. So the 5k is kind of important on aggression, but the other part is good for defense. And then, of course, this guy is good for removal. 20k Double Striker on turn 1 or 2, basically. Usually turn 2 because you'd be charging a multi. And then gets out Acrobat. So that's kind of like the breakdown. Really, really kind of quick and overview. But overall, you kind of get the idea as far as card choices, I hope. And for sequencing, turn 1, you're going to be charging a multicolor card. There's not really a way to get around that. You can probably play a variation in this deck where you don't have to play multicolor, but I think it's too good, not only for Arrival, not only for that, but also for consistency. And I know that sounds weird, but when you really think about it, you're kind of relying on half of your deck being red or green, and then charging the good greens, the good reds. And in this leader, you basically want to stick to red, and red-green multicolor cards are going to be doing that for you. And when it comes to turn 2, you play out the Master Roshi, you play out the King Piccolo. You're going to be swinging with both. So there's a 15k leader, 20k in unison, and 20k double strike. They're going to be taking something, and you really want them to get down in life as quickly as you can. The only downside is that you're playing your entire hand, and you kind of have to watch out for your hand size, which is why Piccolo, which is why Liqueur are really important for those type of things. Or you play a Mai, and then you pass the turn, you play a Nappa on defense, you play Gogeta, and then Acrobat after that, and then turn 3, you go ahead and go into Piccolo or Liqueur. So it's really depending on what you want to do and how you do it. It's just really all situational. And then turn 4 is pretty much what I was talking about before, and that's all you really need to do. Now for the cards to consider is, I'm gonna go away for a second. Corner was cool, but really kind of situational and really only, well, I won't say situational. I think it's really good as a generic card. Like being a 20k leader in Awakened and then minusing something 5k is just generically good. But in red, it's just a little bit awkward because you are just spending an energy just for that, and sometimes you'd be tapping out or using a lot of energy. I think this is better in other decks and not where you're trying to play out your entire hand and not being mid-range. This is more of an aggro/burn deck. You know, there you go. Belmont, I didn't really like because of the leader effect. You have to be looking at 3. If you're playing Burnhan or Baby Vegeta, this is a lot better card. If you want to chance it, definitely put it in the deck. Topo kind of already explained. Drum, I didn't like because you have to discard. Plus, Beerus doesn't work on it because it is part of the auto/cost instead of, it's more of the part of the cost, basically. It's the same ruling as literally anything else, like Topo. There you go. So because of that, I didn't like it. Otherwise, if you feel like you can hold a big hand and maybe even leave it for later into the game, then I can kind of get behind this. The Final Blow is actually so good. I just don't know if it has a place in this deck. Like things like Saiyan Kaba or Heroic Videl or Mai or that's pretty much it, actually, because King Piccolo is not going to stay there. Saiyan Kaba is not going to be there because they're going to be swinging into it. So like Final Blow is not that great because you need a mono red battle card. If it was any red battle card, it would be a lot better. This would be better in any other mono red deck. Otherwise, I would recommend to definitely look into that card because it's really good. Like activate battle, come on now. Piccolo Jr. I didn't like because if you're mono red, it's better because if you play turn 1 and they take a damage, or turn 2 basically, either one. But I don't like doing that, and charging multicolored cards is really tough in this format. I don't really recommend to play this card. Also, after 6 life, because it has to be 6 or more, the card is a little dead. There's not really too many options to boost up 5k and gain double strike. And you might as well play Beerus and Champa instead, to play it on their turn. Or on offense, basically. Yamcha is really good for Alliance. I just don't like the card. I think it's more of a sideboard card if you're going to be playing this in the best of 3, just like for Vegex or for anything that plays out via skill, because it has to be in counter window 2 to be effective. That's pretty much it. Piccolo the Giant Force is a 1-cost unison, so like if you wanted to play a second unison, this would be the one. I feel like. Because the leader card or the awakened leader side only needs a red unison in general. Plus the auto to add markers really fits well with this, and things like Saiyan Kaba, things like intensifying power trunks, Dodoria, even the leader effects taking a life, this does proc off. So those are the things that you have to kind of look out for, and I think this is a really good substitution for Master Roshi to play it for 1 and kind of guarantee you that extra damage and making sure that you have those things on board. Plus it's a nice little removal. There you go. I don't think the -6 is going to go off. This is more of a Red Broly type thing, but anyway, that's the whole deck. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully I broke down the things and the thoughts that I like and the reasons why I picked it. As far as gameplay, I'm not going to add it to this. I am busy as is, but when I aren't, and I am not, definitely follow me on Twitch. I'll be playing any of the decks that I've posted before. Hopefully I can get it back into a better schedule. This is going to be posted probably, people will probably clicked off by now, but this is probably going to be posted 3 days after I record it. So I will probably have at least 1 or 2 weeks worth of videos because I'll be posting like every other day, but it'll be consistent. And then I'll be able to schedule some time to actually play online on Twitch. There you go. Either way, subscribe if you're new, like, dislike, all the other stuff. I will see you in the next one. Also, if you have reached to the end, there's one embarrassing thing about this shirt that I really don't like. So if you find it, there you go. Let me know in the comments below. I will give you a prize for the first person who does it. I don't know. Who cares? Just put it in the comments below. I'll see you next one.